Imagine a system designed to consume valuable inputs without producing a single trace of output. This is exactly what happens when you attempt to operate your personal finances without data visibility. Consider a user we'll call Mark. Every month, his paycheck arrived, and by the end of the 30-day cycle, the capital had completely dissipated. He experienced acute financial stress. Yet, because he never reviewed his accounts, he lacked the data to identify the source of that stress. There is a direct mathematical cure for this passive anxiety, a systemic financial audit. To initiate this process, we must accept a basic law of operations. You cannot fix what you do not measure. Mark's financial state was effectively a black box, a closed loop of passive consumption, where outflows went entirely unrecorded. Operating in this unmeasured state conceals systemic leaks. Small amounts of capital steadily drain away, hidden by the sheer volume of daily transactions. Solving this requires a strict methodology. We have to map every input entering the system and every output leaving it. This demands total rigor. Rent, food, isolated coffee purchases, and minor late fees must all be recorded. Executing this map forces a behavioral shift. The user stops acting as a passive consumer and begins operating as an active systems manager. An unmeasured system trends inevitably toward failure. Establishing total data visibility is the absolute prerequisite for halting any downward financial trajectory. Before we can make any structural improvements, we need to gather a reliable baseline of raw data. This means pulling exactly 3 continuous months of bank statements. A 90-day window filters out single-month anomalies and ensures the patterns we find are statistically reliable. This diagram translates raw data into a visible cash flow system. We begin with a primary node representing monthly income, which immediately diverges into outflow channels for rent, food, and coffee. We then map specific branches for recurring subscriptions and late fees. Once the data is plotted visually, the destructive patterns previously hidden inside the black box become instantly apparent. The audit pinpoints the first major systemic leak. Mark is losing exactly $150 a month to unused software applications. Recurring discretionary costs are particularly dangerous. They are automated leaks that drain capital consistently without requiring active input. The second major leak appears in the food category. Mark is spending $200 every month strictly on takeout. A single takeout order seems financially insignificant on a Tuesday night, but aggregated over 30 days, those isolated purchases form a severe capital drain. Finally, we assess the intended reserve capability. The terminal node, representing Mark's savings account, registers at precisely 0. An empty savings account is rarely an isolated problem. It is the mathematical symptom of unmanaged leaks occurring further up the cash flow chain. Auditing raw data strips away vague behavioral assumptions. It translates daily habits into quantifiable structural flaws, exposing the exact targets that require intervention. Measuring monthly cash flow addresses immediate habits, but we must also evaluate the long-term, aggregated health of the entire system. This introduces a necessary broader metric, net worth. Tracking discrete monthly expenses is tactically useful for balancing a checking account, but to understand your actual financial trajectory, you must measure your net worth. This diagram calculates net worth, assets minus liabilities. Mark's asset column is virtually empty, anchored by a 0 savings balance. The liabilities column lists accumulated consumer debts and late fees. Subtracting liabilities from assets results in a negative integer. Mark's initial state variable is entirely underwater. His net worth is deeply negative. The mechanical reality of a negative net worth is absolute. It dictates that the system currently owes more total value than it is inherently capable of producing. Confronting this objective, negative baseline data for the first time is highly uncomfortable. Yet establishing this precise number is mandatory. You cannot initiate a structural repair without knowing exactly how deep the deficit runs. Net worth serves as the definitive diagnostic measure of your trajectory. A negative baseline demands immediate, data-driven intervention to prevent systemic collapse. With the baseline established, we apply a 6-month operational timeline to implement and track structural changes. This Cartesian graph plots net worth on the y-axis over a 6-month timeline on the x-axis. As established, the data line begins below the 0 axis in negative territory. The first targeted intervention is surgical. By entirely eliminating the unused subscriptions, we instantly recover $150 of monthly outflow. The second intervention requires altering daily consumption. We replace the $200 takeout drain with a highly optimized, lower-cost grocery metric. The final structural change reallocates that newly recovered capital. We direct it into an active, protective reserve, an emergency fund that begins generating positive value in the assets column. We can track the cumulative effect of these three combined interventions. The net worth trajectory climbs steadily upward, crossing into positive territory precisely at the month 6 mark. Within half a year, the system's trajectory inverted completely, from negative to positive. Mark achieved financial stability without increasing his income. The surplus was generated by ruthlessly optimizing his outputs. This demonstrates that financial analysis is not a punitive chore. It is the primary mechanism for exerting control over your environment. Transitioning from the passive operator of a black box to the manager of an active, transparent ledger shifts operational power entirely back to the user. Proactively audit your own baseline metrics today, regardless of how intimidating your current financial state might appear. Confronting the discomfort of raw data provides a guaranteed mathematical blueprint for securing enduring financial power.